What comes to mind when people hear your name and you're not in the room? That question is more powerful than most people realize, because whether you know it or not, you already have a personal brand. It's in how you speak, how you show up, what you post, how you treat others, especially when no one is watching. And in today's noisy digital world where everyone is curating images and chasing attention, real personal branding isn't about colors or logos or catchy bios. It's about identity. It's about clarity. It's about becoming the kind of person people remember for the right reasons. Jim Rohn, whose wisdom still shapes generations, once said, "The ultimate reason for setting goals is to become the person it takes to achieve them." Let that sink in. He wasn't talking about goals for applause. He was talking about transformation, about building a version of yourself that lives with integrity, purpose, and impact. So when we talk about the brand called you, we're not talking about selling a product. We're talking about revealing your principles, living your values, becoming magnetic not by trying to impress, but by choosing to express. And the best part, this brand isn't something you have to invent. It's something you uncover. Because deep down, you already know who you are when the masks fall off, when no one is watching, when it's just you and the question, what kind of legacy am I quietly building? So today, in this deep conversation, we won't be designing personal brands. We'll be discovering them, the real you, the quiet strength beneath the surface, the character that speaks louder than any caption ever could. You ready? Let's begin the journey inward. We live in an age of visibility. Everyone is seen, but not everyone is known. We scroll for hours, swipe through faces, skim bios, and somehow we're more connected than ever, but more confused than ever about who we are. Welcome to the era of noise, where curated images replace true identity, where comparison is constant, where worth feels like it's measured in likes, views, and attention spans. In this chaos, most people aren't lost because they have no brand. They're lost because they've been told to build the wrong one. One based on trends, one based on what works for others, one that looks good on the outside but feels empty on the inside. Jim Rohn saw this coming before the internet even existed. He warned, "You cannot change the seasons, but you can change yourself." Translation, you can't control the noise, but you can build clarity within it. Let's talk about the symptoms of being lost in the noise. You feel pulled in 1,000 directions. You wonder if you're doing enough. You compare your pace to someone else's highlight reel. You post, but it doesn't feel like your voice. You achieve, but it doesn't feel like your win. And over time, something dangerous begins to happen. You start mistaking attention for identity. Let me ask you, when was the last time you did something meaningful without sharing it online? When was the last time you showed up in a room and didn't wonder what people thought of you? That's the cost of the noise. It robs us of authenticity. Not loudly, but quietly. Over time, your voice gets quieter, your vision gets blurrier, until you start asking, who am I without all this? Jim Rohn reminded us, real influence doesn't start with performance. It starts with principles. And if you want to build a personal brand that lasts, you have to go deeper than aesthetics. You have to build something that holds up in silence, not just applause. Something that feels like alignment, not performance. Because when you live aligned, your presence speaks louder than your posts. In a world that tells you to broadcast everything, your quiet integrity will become your loudest message. So if you feel lost in the noise, don't panic. It just means you're ready to tune back in, to stop broadcasting and start becoming, to trade relevance for resonance, to stop performing and start aligning. Because who you are will always be more powerful than what you post, and your brand, it starts the moment you decide to be deeply, undeniably you. Let's continue. If you've ever wondered where to begin in building your personal brand, don't start with Instagram. Don't start with your resume. Start with this question. What do I believe in so deeply that I'd be willing to be misunderstood for it? Because your brand is not what you present when it's easy. It's what you protect when it's hard. And Jim Rohn taught us that long before personal branding was even a term. Point fives. He didn't talk about algorithms or aesthetics. He talked about philosophy, because to him, your philosophy is your brand. Let's break down the 3 pillars Jim Rohn gave us to build an authentic brand. Define your values, discover your niche, craft your story. Let's go deep into each. 1. Define your values. Jim once said, don't just read books, build beliefs. In other words, don't collect ideas, commit to them. Your values are not decorations, they're decisions. What do you stand for? What do you refuse to compromise? What would you defend even when no one's watching? Jim believed that character precedes reputation, that who you are inside will eventually echo on the outside, and your values, that's your foundation. So let's make this real. Open a notebook, title the page, My Core Values, and write down 5 things you want your life and therefore your brand to stand for. They could be integrity, compassion, curiosity, courage, discipline. Now ask, do I live these values when no one's looking? Because here's what Jim taught. You can't advertise authenticity. You have to embody it. 2. Discover your niche. Jim Rohn said, the key to your better future is you. Not your job, not your social media strategy. You, your story, your voice, your experience, your obsessions, flaws, setbacks, scars. That's your niche, not a market segment, not a category on LinkedIn, but a space only you can fully inhabit. We live in a world obsessed with competition, but Jim didn't talk about outdoing others. He talked about becoming yourself, and when you do that, there is no competition. So how do you discover your niche? Look for the intersection of 3 things. 1, your gifts. 2, your passions. 3, your pain. What do people always ask your help with? That's your gift. What could you talk about all day, even if no one paid you? That's your passion. What wound have you turned into wisdom? That's your message. Your niche is found where those 3 converge. That is your unique fingerprint in the world, and it's worth building around. 3. Craft your story. Jim Rohn said, people respond to stories, not stats. You don't connect with people through perfection. You connect through humanity. So if you want your personal brand to resonate, don't just share your wins, share your why. Tell us why you started, what broke your heart, what made you believe, what you failed at and got back up from. Because personal branding isn't about appearing polished, it's about being relatable. And the most powerful people online are the ones who are willing to share the parts they once hid. Let me give you a framework Jim would have loved. Tell stories in 3 acts. Act 1, the struggle. Where were you? What problem were you facing? What did you not know? Act 2, the shift. What realization changed you? What truth did you learn the hard way? Act 3, the stand. What do you believe now? How are you helping others with that belief? That's not just storytelling. That's personal transformation in motion. And it is the core of a compelling personal brand. Let's bring it all together. When you define your values, you build the foundation of your brand. When you discover your niche, you find the positioning of your brand. When you craft your story, you bring life and voice to your brand. And when you do all 3 consistently, you don't need to shout, you don't need to go viral, you just need to be clear, because clarity is magnetic. Jim Rohn never had Instagram, but his message spread worldwide. Why? Because it was rooted, it was lived, it was true. So what about you? If someone followed you, not your feed, but your life, for 30 days, what would they say you stand for? What would they remember? What would you be proud of? This isn't pressure, it's possibility. You get to design the identity you show up with. You get to choose clarity over chaos, substance over show, legacy over likes. And if Jim Rohn were here today, he wouldn't tell you to post more. He'd tell you to go deeper, to build not a brand, but a being, not a persona, but a person of integrity. So take what you've learned here, write it down, reflect on it, Speak it aloud, live it forward, because your personal brand is already being built. The only question is, are you building it on purpose? Let's continue. Let's make it real. We've talked about philosophy, about values, story, clarity, but now it's time to practice, because knowledge without action, it fades. Jim Rohn believed that small disciplines done daily create lasting change. He said, "Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day." So let's build your personal brand, one discipline at a time. Here are 3 simple, powerful practices you can start today. Each one helps you build your brand not just on display, but from the inside out. Practice 1, the 3-word identity test. Here's a question to ask the people around you. What 3 words would you use to describe me? Ask this to 3 people who know you well. Friends, colleagues, mentors, family. Write down their answers. Don't explain, don't justify, just receive. Then do the same exercise for yourself. Write down the 3 words you would use to describe who you are or who you want to become. Now compare the lists. Do they align? Do they conflict? Are there surprises? This test gives you powerful feedback. Are you being perceived the way you intend? Is there a gap between how you show up and who you want to be? Jim Rohn often said, "You cannot make progress without honest reflection." Let this test be your mirror, not to shame you, but to shape you. The point 5. If the words don't match who you want to be, great. Now you have a target. Begin shifting your habits, tone, and presence toward alignment. Let each day be one tiny vote for the brand you are becoming. Practice 2. Design your digital home. In the digital age, people Google you before they meet you. Your online presence is often your first impression. But here's the thing. You don't need to be everywhere. You just need one place that feels like you. So build a simple personal website or refresh the one you have. Nothing fancy, just real. Include a clear photo, a short paragraph about your mission, a quote that moves you, a section of things you believe in, a project you're proud of. Think of this page as your digital living room. When someone walks in, they should feel like they've met you, not a brand persona. Jim Rohn said, "Don't just leave your image to chance, design it with intention." This doesn't mean being performative, it means being present, even when you're not in the room. When your online space reflects your inner space, that's when your brand becomes unforgettable. Practice 3. Tell one consistent story. Every room you walk into, every post you share, every word you speak, they're all part of the same conversation. Who are you becoming? Most people wear different masks depending on the room, but true power comes from integrity, from showing up as oneself, everywhere. Jim said, "Be loyal to your values in all places, not just where they're easy to keep." So this week, try this. Before you post anything, ask, does this reflect who I truly am? Before you speak up in a meeting, ask, is this voice coming from my truth or my fear? Before you say yes to a project, a friend, a trend, ask, will this move me closer to the person I say I'm becoming? Let your actions narrate your story. Let your consistency build trust. Because in the end, people may forget your job title, but they will never forget how aligned you were, how real you felt, how clear you made them feel about themselves. Let's bring it home. Your personal brand is not a side project. It's your daily practice. It's your reputation in motion. When you reflect on your identity, create a digital space of truth, and live one consistent story, you don't just influence people, you inspire them. Because the most magnetic brands are really just people living in deep alignment with who they are. And that kind of brand, it doesn't need to sell. It serves, it speaks for itself. So if you're ready to start, don't wait for the perfect website or the right moment or the ideal strategy. Start with these 3 practices. Start messy if needed, but start aligned. And let your life, not your logo, be the loudest thing people remember. As Jim would say, you don't build character in a day, you build it daily. So build yours, from the inside out. We've come full circle. From discovering your values, to crafting your story, to practicing your brand from the inside out. Now it's time to ask the most important question of all. When it's all said and done, what will they remember you for? Not your follower count, not the aesthetic of your feed, not the views, likes, or perfect captions, but your presence, your essence, your impact. Jim Rohn said, "Success is not what you have, it's who you become." That quote, it's not about status, it's about soul. Because true personal branding is not a highlight reel, it's a human reflection. And the most powerful legacy you can leave is not a viral moment, but a consistent presence of integrity over time. So let me offer you 3 closing reflections. Simple, soulful, sustainable. Reflection 1. Be known for how you made people feel. Long after people forget what you said, they'll remember how you made them feel. Jim Rohn didn't scream, he didn't push, he didn't sell hype. He invited people inward. He made them feel seen. He made them feel like growth was possible. So here's the practice. After every conversation, ask, did I leave this person a little more hopeful, a little more clear? That's brand building, one human moment at a time. Reflection 2. Make consistency louder than image. In a world of curated moments, what stands out is who you are repeatedly. Not your best day, not your most polished day, but your everyday. So don't chase the next viral quote. Live the same quote, again and again. If you say you value kindness, practice it in traffic. If you say you value learning, make time for books over bragging. Jim Rohn taught, discipline is the foundation upon which all success is built, and discipline is the backbone of legacy. Let people feel that from you, not once, but always. Reflection 3. Ask the question. There's one question that should echo at the heart of your personal brand. If I disappeared tomorrow, what part of me would still speak in someone's life? It's not morbid, it's clarifying. Will they remember your voice, your courage, your wisdom, or just the frequency of your posts? Your legacy isn't just what you leave behind, it's what you leave within. So be intentional, be present, be the kind of person who echoes. Let's bring it all together. In a world chasing virality, be someone building vitality. In a culture obsessed with noise, be the still voice of integrity. In a sea of filters, be the mirror of what's real. Because when people stop scrolling and start thinking, you've done more than build a brand, you've built meaning. And meaning, that's what lasts. Jim Rohn didn't build a social presence. He built a soul presence. That's why we still quote him, still learn from him, still feel him in quiet moments of growth. So if you're wondering where to begin, or how to show up next week, or what's the next best move for your brand, here it is. Show up as someone worth remembering. Not to impress, but to imprint. Your brand isn't a business card. It's your daily interaction, your silent decision, your unnoticed integrity. And over time, that becomes your legacy. So let me leave you with this final challenge. Comment below. I choose to build from within. Not because it's trendy, but because it's timeless. Legacy over likes, clarity over clout, becoming over branding. This is the brand called you. Let it begin now.